there was a million setbacks, but people always ask me, well, like, how did you just keep going? I just did. I'm like, oh, okay, I can't do that. Got to figure something else out. Can't do that. Got to figure something else out. And it's much like when you're in prison, people still smuggle drugs in. It's almost impossible, it seems. There's so many guards, so many searches, so many, but it still gets in there. There's always a way to make things happen. And I look at every time that the government's got in my way or an industry's got in my way or there's been a setback or a divorce or whatever the case may be, every time it's like, okay, cool. It's just like being a running back in football. That hole's blocked up. Maybe I should go through this one instead. You know, was it some superpower intelligence or safety net or overconfidence? I'm pretty damn insecure. It was just the fact that, like, I just never quit. Like, all those things should have made me quit. Maybe I was too dumb to quit. It's paid off pretty well now, though.
Welcome to the InPowered Life Podcast, a space dedicated to spreading the message that you have the power within to create everything you seek.
So if you're ready to enroll in a new kind of higher learning, the kind that leads to true personal freedom, then hang here with us.
We're your hosts, Rudi and Rudi Riekstins, and this is the InPowered Life. Welcome to the InPowered Life Podcast. I'm Rudi Riekstins, your host, and today we're joined by Ryan Stewman. And this is an interview that I'm really excited to have because before we hit record, the two of us were actually talking and we were saying that, you know what we love so much about podcasting is that there's so much more conversations between two people where the audience gets to benefit. And I think I'm more excited about this interview as a conversation of what I'm going to be able to walk away and take from that I have no doubt you as the audience are going to have profound value from. He is the CEO and founder of Apex, which is a business association. This gentleman has self-published 11 books. He has sold over 100,000 copies. In addition to be an investor in real estate, in retail, restaurants, software companies, he hails himself as the greatness extractor and culture curator. And so I want you to think about what does that mean? And what really drew me to Ryan was the fact that this man has lived an unbelievably challenging life. And yet he has seemed to take what we refer to as lemons and turn them into lemonade. And I'm very excited to bring him onto the InPowered Life podcast where we talk about how you can have, be, do, and achieve absolutely anything and everything in your life. And all of what has transpired in your life prior to today is preparing you for the person that you get to become. And Ryan Stewman is absolutely the poster child of what that looks like. Ryan, thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Man, I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Man, I started off saying I'm just excited to have this conversation and to hear you unpack a little bit of who you are and what it is that you're doing today. We have some mutual friends and I've seen some of the things that you're doing and I've been very impressed by you from a distance, but to have the opportunity just to unpack a little bit, assuming a lot of people that are listening to the show have not yet come across your content, don't yet follow you, which I'm going to strongly recommend that they do. But I want to start off by just saying, could you do me a favor and just tell us a little bit about your very rocky backstory that really set you up? Because I think that that's where so many people get stuck. You know, life happens to them, then they pause, they deflect, they break down, they say, this is where I am, and you've done none of those things.
Well, you know, today, right now, at the end of 2024, as we're having this conversation, I live a dream life. You know, I have a beautiful wife and 4 kids and a house that most people would love to come home to, and you know, a large ranch not too far from the house that we get to go spend time on every weekend, and a huge office building that's in the wealthiest zip code in the wealthiest county in Texas. And I shouldn't, by societal definition and the way things typically work, be here. And there has been every attempt to keep me from being here my entire life. You know, I was about 7 or 8 years old when my stepdad adopted me, and I changed. You know, I had to change my last name. I was born Ryan Russell McCord and became Ryan Keith Stewman. And we moved around a little bit. My stepdad and I were obviously not the same DNA, and he was the complete opposite of my birth father. And so there was a lot of violence in the house, you know, on his end. The answer for everything wasn't to sit me down and give me wisdom like I do for my kids. It was just like bust his ass and let him figure it out, right? Which is as a parent now, I've spanked all my kids but my daughter, but my 3 boys, I've let them have it over the years a few times, not often, but a few times, and when you looking back, like when you consistently spank a kid every time he makes a mistake, you're almost training a person to be scared of making mistakes, and you're not counseling them on why the mistake was made. So I don't know all this as a kid. I just think I'm a prolific fuck up. So about the time I'm 13, I run away from home. And, I get dropped back and forth to my parents' house a few times. Sometimes I get picked up by the cops, or one of the neighborhood kids' parents would, bring me back to my house, or whatever the case may be. But basically I was on the streets, dropped out of school when I was 15, started selling drugs when I was about 14, dropped out of school when I was 15. And by the time I was 19, I got arrested for selling drugs. And I ended up doing 2 years in 6 or 7 different maximum security prisons. So about the time, a month or 2 would go by and I'd get settled in somewhere, and I would move to another unit, which was very traumatic for me because I was about a 130-pound kid, 19, 20 years old, going around these murderers and killers and really bad actors. And I had to repeat that process 6 or 7 times, right? So like when I got out, I'm never getting in trouble again. I cleaned my life up, got a job at a car wash. And my whole goal in life was just to be the best car wash person ever. If I just know everything about it, I'll become an invaluable person to this organization. And no matter what my background is, they're not going to be able to operate without me. I'll just insert myself. And that's kind of how I do life. I want to be the best and make myself valuable to whoever I'm serving. And so, at that time, I just knew that, hey, I had a job. I want to make the most of it. What is the top position in this company? Okay, I'm going to go after that. I end up getting the top position. And I got recruited away from that job to work in finance. I didn't know anything about math, numbers, but I knew how to weigh dope. That was about it, But this lady took me under her wing, and about 6 weeks into working for her, I had made about $30,000. I mean, I went from car wash, $30,000 a year, to this job in mortgages making $30,000 every 2 months. And I'm like, dude, I'm sold. Within a year, I was a millionaire, made about $700,000 in the following year in personal income. And the police kicked in the door of my house. I still live in a smaller town. The police kicked in the door of my house, raided my house thinking I was selling drugs because I got this nice house and these cars, but I got a legit job. I'm not even using drugs anymore. And they raid my house. They don't find any drugs, but they find a gun. And the gun wasn't even fucking mine. But regardless, they find a gun. This is where the story, if it wasn't crazy enough, this is where I know God had to have me in his pocket this whole time, is I get arrested for felon in possession of a firearm. There's no drugs in my house. There's no reason for them to even be there. They've made a mistake. They got to cover their tracks and cover their butt. So the city of Allen charges me with felon in possession of a firearm. In Texas, 5 years after your prison sentence, you can own a gun in your house. That, first of all, the gun wasn't mine. Second of all, it was in my house and it had been more than 5 years. So there was no case for them to do anything with. So I took it to the state, beat the case. I had this attorney, and he was a very important part of the story. His office was on the corner of Malcolm X and Martin Luther King. He was an African-American gentleman, black guy. And I'd hired him to be my attorney, and we beat the state case. After I beat the case, I sent him a bunch of business. He also had a title company, so I sent him a bunch of mortgage business to his title company. And one day they called me in to the title company and said, I'm going to run to be district attorney of Dallas County. It's like, cool. All right. How can I help? You need me to contribute some money or whatever? And one of the guys, I was the only white guy in the room. One of the other guys in the room goes, I don't think he understands you'd be the first African-American, first Democrat in Dallas County, first African-American in the state of Texas to have a judicial position. We're up against something big here. And so, the guy had helped me beat the case. So we helped him get elected, and he ended up becoming the first black district attorney in the state of Texas. He became the first Democrat district attorney in Dallas County. Big deal, historical moment. I got to be a part of it, and the feds freaking picked me up. For the same charge with the gun, the feds then pick me up and say, hey, you beat the state case, but we don't recognize the state's rights. And since you're a felon, the fed's a whole different game. So now you got to come with us. They're trying to give me 20 years. But I told you my attorney got elected to DA of the biggest county in Texas, second biggest county in Texas. And so he pulls some strings and gets this plea deal with me, but I got to go do 15 more months in federal prison. So I walk into federal prison, a millionaire, I'm married, I got everything going for me. 15 months later, I'm divorced, I got $25 to my name, and I don't have a job. I walked out in 2008. The mortgage market's gone bust, right? Remember, I'm doing finance. The mortgage market's gone bust. Ex-wife sold all my houses, spent all my money with somebody else, cheated on me, divorced me while I was in prison. I got to move into a halfway house. So I walked in that place without committing a crime as a millionaire and walked out of it with $25 to my name, divorced, having to sleep on a bunk in a halfway house, trying to figure, I got 3 weeks to figure my life out. I go in this job interview, and on the paper it says, have you ever been convicted of a crime? And I just check no. You know what I mean? Like, it's easier just to, maybe they don't run backgrounds at that point. I just need a job, you know? They tell me I got the job. I go through all these interviews. I get the job. I'm supposed to start on Monday. I'm bragging to all my friends, everything else. Monday comes around about 8 in the morning. I'm supposed to be in the office at 9. By 8 in the morning, I get a call on my cell phone, and they say, Mr. Stewman, we ran your background. We're going to have to resend our job offer to you. What? Shit. Now I don't have a job. One of my buddies, I call him, I'm complaining about the situation. He goes, I get you a job where I'm at. It's a mortgage company, but dude, we're still making money over here. Come on. So I go over to this mortgage company. I become top producer within a couple of months. And one night, it's like, 8, 9 o'clock at night. I'm working late because that's what top producers do. I go in the kitchen to get a Red Bull or a coffee or something. I look up at the TV, and that company that didn't give me the job, they were being raided by the FBI for unethical practices. So it had been about 4 months at this point. I would have definitely been their top producer by that point, have my third strike, have my ass back in prison again, And so the final piece of the little background on me is, 2010, Obama passes something called the Dodd-Frank Act. Part of that says if you're a convicted felon, you can't have a mortgage license anymore. So I can't get out of my own way. I'm true proof in this American atmosphere that I made one mistake as a teenager when I was 19 years old, and that thing has cost me millions, cost me freedom, and now costing me the only job that I've ever had that wasn't selling dope or washing cars. I'm like, I can't, the government won't get the hell out of my way all these years later. Now, I see why most people are like, you know what, I'm just going to kill somebody and go do a life sentence. Like, forget it. You know what I mean? Like, I can go take hitman money, put it on my books, and I'll just go do a life sentence. I can't win out here. Every time I get ahead, they're setting me back. Every time I get ahead, they're setting me back. But for me, I'm like, man, I'm not going back to prison. I got a kid at this point coming. What am I going to do with my life? Well, when I got out of prison, I started posting on, my sister went to A&M, Texas A&M. And so she's like, everybody's using this thing called Facebook. You should get on it. So I start thinking maybe my ex-wife will see me posting on Facebook with I'm carrying like my top producer trophies and, stuff like that. Right. And I'm thinking maybe she'll see it and realize she shouldn't have divorced me and I still got it. And maybe she'll be jealous. I don't really want her back, but I'd like to prove that I'm still a winner. Right. So meanwhile, I'm making these posts about me winning on my job and stuff. Well, people start hitting me up saying, hey, can you do my mortgage too? Can you do my mortgage? Hey, and I'm getting all these leads from Facebook. This is 2008, 2009. So 2010 comes around. I got this harebrained idea that I'm going to start my own business in my own industry that's never existed before. And I started teaching people how to get leads and make money off of social media. In the beginning, it was just loan officers because that's all I knew, right? I'd never been in any other business or whatever, but that was 14 years ago. Now we've helped 84,000 people across pretty much the whole planet come in and make money from either building a business, a brand, or being an influencer from social media. But there was no Gary Vaynerchuk's online. There was no Grant Cardone's online. Tony Robbins wasn't online. It was like I had nobody to look up to. As a matter of fact, the mentors that I did pay for and have, they were all old school email marketers, and they didn't grasp that what they were doing in email was more effective in social media. They all told me I was crazy. And now we all know this is normal, but imagine me trying to tell you in 2010, hey man, you can make $1 million a year from social media. You'd be like, what even is social media? Right? Like people didn't know. Now it's like common sense. So I created my own lane, but over the years, there's been a lot of celebrities come from that, but it all came to this because of necessity. I had to figure something out that didn't require a license. It wasn't going to be taken from me, that I could build and control myself. And, you know, some of that's not the case anymore. You don't really control Facebook and Twitter and stuff like we thought we did in the beginning. But you know, what a crazy story. The crux of that is there's a million different setbacks. And I just gave everybody a quick version. We could talk about this for months, but like there was a million setbacks, but people always ask me, well, like, how did you just keep going? I just did. I'm like, oh, okay, I can't do that. Got to figure something else out. Oh shit, can't do that. Got to figure something else out. And it's much like when you're in prison, people still smuggle drugs in. It's almost impossible, it seems. There's so many guards, so many searches, but it still gets in there. There's always a way to make things happen. And I look at every time that the government's got in my way or an industry's got in my way or there's been a setback or a divorce or whatever the case may be, every time it's like, okay, cool. It's just like being a running back in football. That hole's blocked up. Maybe I should go through this one instead. So, you know, I just, you know, wasn't some superpower intelligence or safety net or overconfidence. I'm pretty damn insecure. It was just the fact that like, I just never quit. Like all those things should have made me quit. And maybe I was too dumb to quit. And it's paid off pretty well now though.
So I know that you have a belief that the world is constantly serving you, and having listened to your story, I would imagine it would be hard to swallow that pill that life is happening for you, not to you. We talk about that a lot, that everything is always pre-planning or preparing you for the person that you get to become. So we've heard about you running away from home at 13, getting into drugs, eventually dealing drugs, then getting arrested, you know, going through what would be a very difficult story. You then turn your life around and then you lose it again. And then you turn your life around and then it looks like you're going to lose it again. And so we've heard it without recanting the details. I want to pause there for a second for the audience to just think about any time they've ever hit a roadblock and what does that roadblock really mean and what is it serving them? And so I feel like you've answered the question, but I really want to ask you a little more directly. What do you think, looking back now at who you are today, what you do today, and we'll get into what you're doing now so the audience has a better understanding. But what I would love to know is, what do you think was the greatest gift that you got from every single one of these hurdles that kept you back, that forced you then into a different direction to achieve what you've achieved?
When I was 13, I had to figure out how to survive on the streets without really a money or a job. When I was 20, I had to figure out how to hustle in prison without people coming to see me or putting money on my books. And without, you know, doing sexual favors or getting shanked because I'm into the drug trade or whatever. Those guys in there do not play around with that stuff. They're not going anywhere, you know, and neither are you. Losing my job. Had I been a mortgage guy, I would never, you know, at this point, about 2 million people a month read our posts. I would never reach that many people just being a banker. Even if I was making the same amount of money, I would never be reaching that many people. So the biggest gift was the amount of pressure, because I look at it now, it's like I survive in prison, running a business ain't shit. I survive on the streets, running a business ain't shit. So the greatest gift was the fact that going through all this hardship gives me an edge for the business I'm in now, because nobody else can say what I can say. You got guys like Tony Robbins. He's never been in trouble. The guy's been the golden boy is what they've called him since he was 19 years old. He's 68 now. He don't know hardship, right? Like he can tell you a story from when he was a teenager, and he's been a great idol for many of us. But a person that's just got out of prison, Tony can't relate to him. He's just fresh out of his, you know, mansion and stuff. Same with Cardone. Great guy, huge motivator, great real estate guru. And he's got his drug thing from when he was in his 20s, but he didn't even get in trouble for that. You got even Wes Watson, who's like, I did 10 years in prison and that's great, but he doesn't, that's one lane. I went through all this different shit because now I can relate and give people advice and wisdom on what I went through to get there. The best client for me is someone that is me from 5 or 10 years ago, because I know what they've got to do to get from there. So many people are always chasing clients that are, I'm looking for the big, mega, super rich celebrity clients. Like, yeah, but the guy that's, Ryan from 5-6 years ago, I helped a dude this year. He sold his business for $80 million. 7 years ago, he was in solitary confinement in prison. I've been working with him for 3 or 4 years now, and he sold his company for $80 million. 7 years ago, solitary confinement, gang member in prison, now $80 million cash for his company. He would have never found me. That would have never happened for him. He would have never known he could sell that company. He would have never built it. I'm not taking away from his hard work, but none of those things would have happened if I hadn't been in prison at some point. And you know what? Him making that money pays for his employees. It pays for his board of directors. It's a lot of money for a lot of people, not just him. It's his family. It's a legacy. And that's just one of thousands of stories like that. And so the biggest gift was the connection. Now I'm relatable to everybody. The only person that I haven't been through the same hardship as someone that was molested or whatever the case may be. But other than that, I've been through it. I'm right here. I can guide you what it looks like to go through it and get on the other side of it.
So you alluded to a moment ago that, you have helped over, I think you said 84,000 people have gone through your program and utilized your support. And that's a tremendous amount of people wanting to create an impact in themselves and in their life. And so tell us a little bit about Apex, but I want to do it through the lens, if you don't mind, of this question. And I'd really like to know, having had the experiences that you've had, how does that relate specifically to people that are in business that aren't necessarily in a financial situation, or they're not pending, drug charge or going to federal prison, but they're in their everyday business and you're going in to support them? I'm curious, what is the crossover of the similarity of what you've learned and gained from your life that is clearly working in the lives of the people that you're supporting through Apex?
Well, we have a process called the G code. And, in America on the streets, the G code's like the code for gangsters. But for us, it is the code to greatness. I believe like my mission in life is to help as many people become the greatest version of themselves. It's not to make a million millionaires. And some people most people don't even realize they don't have to be a millionaire to live their perfect life. They've just never figured out what their perfect life is. And some people, it takes 10 million a year to live their perfect life. We're all different, but most people haven't mapped that out. So the G code, it came about. I'll explain how it came about, because that's important, and then I'll explain what it is. So as I explained in my story, it was a lot of rock bottom lows and meteoric highs. Became a millionaire, house gets ready to go to prison. Get married, leaves me while I'm in prison. Build my business back up, become a superstar again. Government takes my license. It's a lot of this roller coaster of like, damn, I got it. Can I hold on to it for a minute, right? And I got tired of that. So I had to figure out why. Why is it every time I get ahead, it seems to be something that pulls me back? Why? Why can't I just get ahead and say that I'm still working, I'm still doing the right things, why? So I went on like a 4-year, daily, I'm in pursuit of this stuff, right? And here's the conclusion that I come from. And my biggest gift overall is the ability to take big, complicated things and make it super simple so that we can not have an excuse of, well, it won't work for me, and we can just go do it, right? Then we get to make the decision of whether we're going to put in the effort or not, but it's simple enough to where we can do it. So if we're chasing greatness, Rudi, if you're we're chasing greatness, there's got to be something that pushes us back, because this world is designed to keep us average. It's designed to trap us in a 9-to-5 job with 2 kids going to college, driving a Honda Accord, making $120,000 a year with 401k benefits and insurance. And once you're in that job and you have that house and that car and those kids, you can't leave it. You can't go chase greatness. You're stuck in peak life climbing a corporate ladder. And look, I'm not knocking people that work that life. I'm just saying, A lot of people that stop at 120 a year could have made 250 and made a big difference, could have made 400 and made a bigger difference, could have started that idea they had that they didn't have enough money for, didn't decide to pursue, could have been the next big $1 billion idea. A lot of people, they just get into a place where it's good enough and they get comfortable and they stop. Well, for me, every time that those of us that are pushing past good enough, there's always higher taxes, unexpected bills, divorces, partners ripping us off, clients back charges. There's all these things that can happen. That's just the finance side. Well, imagine all the people that go get healthy and lose 30 pounds and then put it back on 2 months later. Or, the person that rectifies their marriage and then ends up getting divorced 2 years later, right? We're all fighting this. And I call it the force of average. There's an algorithm on this planet that's designed to force us to remain average. And so if you're below average, it's going to give you social welfare. It's going to give you free food. It's going to give you free clothes. It's going to give you Salvation Army to try to help you become an average person. If you're homeless, they'll give you shelter. If you're average, it's trying to trap you there. The perfect tax level, the perfect expense ratio, the perfect economy to keep you trapped in, the perfect pay plan. But those of us that are chasing greatness, we want a better body. We want a better mindset. We're reading books. We're working harder. We're starting businesses. We get higher taxes. We get unexpected bills. We get everything trying to push us to quit. So we go back and say, you know what? This average thing wasn't so bad. After all, that greatness shit is no good. And the truth is, the force of average is our enemy. So if we're chasing greatness, the G code, there's got to be some sort of hack, just like social media or Google or anything else. There's got to be some sort of hack that we can use to fight this enemy, right? The force of average has one weapon. It's to distract us. That's all its job is. Hey, you get things going good, here's a bill that distracts you. Oh, you get a relationship going good, here's somebody flirting with you that distracts you. Oh, you showing up on time for your kids, here's something that goes wrong at work that distracts you. It's always a distraction. So if it's a distraction, God's not going to make us in his own image and not give us a weapon that will defeat anything that comes against us. It says it in the Bible like multiple times, right? So I'm digging deep. What is that weapon? That weapon is focus, and our focus is under attack from the moment we're born. The moment we're born, they start saying, oh, he struggles to pay attention. He's got ADHD. He needs medication. He's not a book smart person. She's not this. They're constantly telling you, by the time you're 12 or 13, you're like, I don't know, I got ADD. I can't think straight. I can't focus. My focus is shot. You start speaking those things over your life, and your subconscious hears it and starts to instill it in your brain. And it wasn't a medicine thing all along. It was a self-talk, subliminal talk from your teachers, your parents, your peers, your mentors, and now yourself. And then you grow up and you're easily distracted right where the force of average wants you. But you got to stay focused. So the G code teaches you the 4 things that you have to focus on daily. Number 1, you have to focus on having a grateful mindset. Gratitude is the precursor to abundance. They always say have an abundant mindset. It's kind of hard when you've had shit taken from you. But if you'll be grateful, the true balance we're looking for in life is being grateful where we are right now while still in pursuit of what's possible in our life. And if we'll write down or visualize or however, we have an app we use, dailygcode.com. It's free. And you can gamify this and track your points on it. But if you write down 5 things in that app that you're grateful for every day, you get a point. Number 2 is your genetics, right? We want to make sure you have a healthy body. Healthy body equals a healthy mind, a healthy life. So exercise and diet, check those off. You get another point. You went to the gym, stuck to a diet. Doesn't have to be a crazy diet, just whatever diet you design. Number 3 is goals, right? So what are your income goals? So if you want to make $1 million a year, that's $3,000 a day. Did you hit your goal? Yes or no? Did you make $3,000 today? I think most people set an income goal at $1 million and they wait till December and they go, shit, I need to make $900,000. But if you went to sleep every night knowing that you didn't do $3,000, if you went to sleep every night knowing that you did or didn't hit your number, you're going to know where you're at, and you're going to track and work a little bit harder because you don't have to wait till the 31st day of the year to find out you're a loser that didn't hit your goals. You're finding out on a daily basis and staying motivated. And then 4th and final, but probably the most important, is the group of people you spend time with. Every day, time with my wife, time with my kids individually and collectively, time with employees, time with customers, time on podcasts like this. Who did I spend my time and focus on and actually be present with today? Every day, I'm focused on grateful mindset, taking care of my genetics, hitting my goals, and the group of people. If I focus on those 4 things every single day, I can't lose. The force of average stands no chance against me because I'm focused on making these 4 things happen every day, hitting my goals at work, participating with my people, making sure my health is on point, making sure that my mind is wired right. Every day, those 4 simple things. If you do all 4 of them in the app, you get 4 points. I think right now, if I look at my app real quick on my phone, I have 6,791 points 4 at a time. So I've been on this for 5, 7, 8 years at this point, like daily, like every single day. And my life is better because of it, because now I know what I got to wake up and focus on every single day. So that's what Apex is. It's an ability to master those 4 things. And we have the skills and the systems and the trainings for all the things that are needed within that. But it's truly a group of people who are millionaires, business owners, and even stay-at-home moms that want to be better, that are working to become the greatest version of themselves by focusing on those 4 things.
In the very beginning of that question, you were talking about how so many people want to stay comfortable, right? They will go and get a corporate job. They'll make 120 grand a year and they don't stretch to the 250. They don't know what they're capable of achieving or what their life would look like if they got to the next level. You also alluded to that when we reach that level of potential, we might have more expendable income that supports us to put money into that idea that could become $1 billion idea. And so I would love to ask the question through your experience, having supported so many people, but I also want to just go back and preface, and I've said this so many times on the show, I don't really get caught up in somebody else's monetary success. I think it's amazing. I think it speaks into the level of self-worth that somebody has. And if they feel worthy of having that level of wealth, they're going to attract that level of wealth. They're going to think and attract people that think the way that they think, and they're going to produce great things in life. But success to me is when you take what is your life and you do something with that. And that's what I love so much. And I said that to you off camera, is that you're turning around and you're teaching what you've learned and you're bringing so many people along for the ride. But I would love to know from you, having had that experience, why do you think so many people are scared or complacent or want to be comfortable? What stops people from moving to that next level?
I don't think people want to be comfortable. I think that is the wrong word. I think people fall victim to the force of average. And listen, I know this is going to sound absolutely asinine to say, but I'm fortunate that I spent my 20s in prison, parole, and probation, right? Because I didn't have any kids. I hadn't built up credit cards and charged them off, all that stuff, right? So I could go and, if I need to go and move to Wilmington today and I'm in my 20s and I don't have a wife, a kid, a home, any of that stuff, dude, I'm just driving my car across the country for an opportunity, but then I'm 31 and now I got a kid that's 2 years old. And he's got a school that he's in with a teacher because he's got a special need maybe, or he needs a special training or whatever the case may be. And the company that I work for is, they're paying the insurance on it. Now I can't afford to leave because this is a $35,000 a year gig that my kid's got with his special need, and the company pays insurance. And if I can't afford the $3,000 a month in insurance on my salary if I was to take another job. So I'm just kind of stuck here. So a lot of people can't. And then guess what happens? Maybe they only work a 8 or 10 hour day. So there's other hours in the day, but then they're mentally exhausted, or they have to take care of that special needs kid or a family member or whatever that thing is. So I think most people want to do that. It's just that the level of, like, for me in my 20s and early 30s, if I go out there and make $1 million and lose it all and fail, cool, I'm the only one affected. In my 30s, if I go out there and lose it all and fail, now my kid's homeless, now my wife's homeless. At 45, where I'm at right now, if I create something and it fails, now I got 4 kids that are homeless and a wife that's homeless, or, having to downsize their life or whatever. And I think a lot of people are, the upside of the risk doesn't outweigh the bad consequences that could happen if it falls apart, right? And me at this point, I've also started I don't know, 20, 30 businesses over the 20 years that I've been an entrepreneur. And so I know the plays that come in. When it's your first time, you don't know shit. I thought I knew everything. My first business, shit, that thing was shut down within 18 months, right? Like I made like 500 grand through it and then epically fucked up the colossally. This was back in the early 2000s. And, you know, like most people would have quit then. And so, but if I'd have had a wife and kids and now they're homeless, I would never be an entrepreneur again, right? Never. That would have scarred me for life. It's like, yes, sir, I'm just glad to have a job, boss. And so I think that's what happens for most people is the downside of the risk doesn't outweigh the reward for them. And they don't know what they're truly capable of. But I'm going to give everybody listening to this, like the truth, like, I'm here not because I'm smart, not because, again, it's just because I didn't quit. So if you commit to something, here's what you know. If you leave your cushy 6-figure a year job to go start your own business, you're going to take a hit in income right out of the gate, no matter how good you think you are. And when I say right out of the gate, you might have a good 6-month run and then you hit a dry spell and now all that profit's wiped away within 90 days. Like, it's just part of being an entrepreneur. Here's the other thing. You think all your friends and family are going to rush to do business with you. They'll be the last motherfuckers to pay you. And then when everybody else has paid you, your friends and family are like, we believed in you all along. We want to be your customers now. And you're probably going to end up telling them you don't want to work with them, right? Like all these things we assume are going to happen don't happen for most of us. And so that keeps people in this gridlock of fear. But the truth is, if you start something, you know these things. Like at this point, I know these things. Friends and family probably not going to buy from me. They will at this point because I'm successful. But when I was starting my own businesses, they're the last people to do business with me, right? I got to go find strangers. Where am I going to go find strangers? How am I going to go deliver this to them? Man, and eventually that pay cut that you took, I went from making $300 grand a year as a loan officer to making $97,000 a year my first year being self-employed. My bills didn't go away, so that means I'm broke at the end of the year. 6-figure year, first year in business, 97 is close enough. And now I'm broke as shit, right? I like completely broke, got bills out the yin-yang and everything else. Year 2, though, I made 250 grand, same bills. At least I'm starting to be able to afford them. Year 3, though, is 500. Year 4 was 850. Year 5 is $1 million, then 3 million, then 10 million, then 20 million, and so on and so forth. So I would have never got there had I stayed comfortable in that job for 300 grand. I would never be at the income level that I'm at now. But I ran a big risk just for myself back then. I think most people are trapped. But here's the other thing, like, drink some Red Bull Energy, get a cocaine addiction or something and work extra hours until you don't have to work that main job anymore. You know, I joke about the cocaine, obviously, but, you know, maybe, I don't know, drink some Red Bull, some coffee, stay up later at night. I remember when I first started this business, I was consumed, man. I would stay up till 12, 1 in the morning, then wake back up at 4 or 5 in the morning, just excited to learn something new and the opportunity in front of me. And, you know, hopefully whatever you're thinking about starting on the side while you're trapped by the force of average, hopefully it's something you're that excited about. So when you come home from work, you can't wait to work on your own thing.
You know, my follow-up question to you was going to ask you, what would your advice be to somebody that has the house and, you know, 2 kids and they have a dream and they want to have more, but you just answered it because it was get focused, and you brought in the fact that your ability to, I'm going to use a term that you didn't use today, but I know that plays a big part in your 4 Gs, and that was grind, right? You know, you've got your goals, but you've got to grind out that goal. And so many people don't put in the work. They want the reward. They do a little bit. They get a bit of a bump or a bruise, and then that stops them. Whereas, you know, I love the analogy you used in the very beginning of somebody in the NFL and they've got to run the ball and they get blocked. Somebody's, you know, in the path where they were planning on going, and now they need to pivot, turn, and they've got to find another hole and run somewhere else to get the ball, you know, further down the field. And I think that is such a great analogy because so many people aren't carrying the ball down the field. They get the first knock and then that's where they stop or get scared. And, you know, I'm going to tell you from life experience, I did that so many times, but also for the benefit of the audience, when I did leave my very, very cushy corporate job with my big salary and my very big bonus structure. And I left it and started my coaching business. It was a massive leap of faith, but had I not done that, I would never be where I am today. But it did take a leap of faith, and I did have a house. In fact, I had 2 houses at the time, a wife and 2 kids. And so it was a major, major risk to take that. But, I'm going to encourage everybody to think about what they want. And then even if it isn't working out in the beginning, as long as you just keep going, keep moving, keep looking for the holes, keep looking for the gaps, you're going to be able to succeed. I want to ask you, because you speak into the 21 Unbreakable rules of money. And we don't have to unpack all of them, but I would love to get a bit of understanding as to, what is that? Because money seems to be one of the biggest things that holds people back. They want to take the risk, but they're scared about the money. They're scared they won't have the money. And I would love for you to talk into a little bit about what is your experience with money and how, because you seem to making money look really easy.
Well, it is. That's the thing. People, like I said, I have a gift for taking complicated things and making them simple. And most people, they were just taught wrong about money. They were taught, save it, put it up, protect it, guard it. Now, why would we be taught that? Because if we save it, put it up, protect it, and guard it, it's not doing what it's supposed to do. And so that's beneficial to the powers that be, we'll call it the deep state or whatever, the Illuminati, right? That's beneficial to them if you're not using your money. And then when you die, they take half of it. Or if you try to pull it out, they take 35% of it, right? Most people, they don't make money because they're not doing the right thing with their money, okay? The average person will want a new car and go out and take their car and go and buy the new car and pay the higher payment, right? For me, I'm going to figure out, okay, how can I go find this new car that I want cheap from somebody who's made a bad financial mistake, drive it for 6 months to a year, and then walk away and it only costs me $1,000 or $2,000 to own this car for the year, right? Like, how can I minimize? I'm not just going there because I love the car. How can I minimize my exposure and get out on the back end? I fly around private jets all the time. I just, my lease on the jet that I've had for a while now just ended. And I've never paid for a private jet flight. Every time I want to go, I take 4 or 5 of my buddies with me, 4 or 5 of my clients with me. They all throw in, pays for the jet. We get to have a good time. So we see a lot of people, like, they go and they spend money, and they actually are spending their own money on things that don't matter. If you go shopping, if you go and you buy a vacation and stuff, dude, that's just as bad as saving money, because that's where your money, it ended there. You worked hard for it. You gave it to somebody for vacation. That money ends there. You work hard for it. You put it in a savings account. That money ends there unless you ever want to use it at some point, which if you're a saver, you're probably not going to. Instead, let me give you the secret to money. Money needs to move. Money is currency. That means that it carries, like a current. If you look at electrical, a current is what flows through conduit, metal wires, right? A currency would be the carrier of that current through there, right? Money is the carrier. We got to keep it moving. When you get money, and here's the problem, people move it, but they move it towards the wrong shit. They go buy a purse, they go buy a watch, they go buy a vacation, they go buy some material thing, a new house. No, money has to keep moving. With my rules of money, one of the biggest money is the 70-20-10 rule, okay? So 70% of your income should go to pay for your lifestyle. 20% of your income should be invested, not saved. It should be invested. Put in it to begin with. You can buy some stocks in the stock market in an IRA. You can buy some Bitcoin until you have enough money to buy bigger things like real estate and businesses. But you need to be putting back 20% of your money. You make $1,000 a week. $200 needs to go into an E-Trade account, a Bitcoin account, something other than a savings account. And listen, don't go buy penny stocks and fall for all that bullshit. That's dumb too. That's not how money works. Go buy Apple, Microsoft, Facebook, Amazon, companies that you know are not going out of business, that you know are going to, Tesla, you know are going to eventually go back up. Even if they go down, they're never going to zero. You're always going to have equity in the stock, right? There's companies out there like that that have stood the test of time. I just named a few of them. Then when you got enough money in the stock market, for that you've saved enough and made enough or Bitcoin, you go buy real estate, go buy some real estate with it, flip a house, buy a house and rent it out, whatever the case may be. But money is designed to keep moving. The other 10% needs to go to charity. Okay. 70% personal, pay your bills, lifestyle, 20% investment, 10% charity. Why 10% charity? Because money's a mindset. And when you believe you can give 10% away and never even miss it, money's going to flow to you because you have an abundant mindset. You're like, dude, I'm going to I made $1,000 this week, $100 over here to church or charity, $200 in my investment account. I still got $700 to live on. Next week, same thing, 200 more. Now I got $400 in my investment account. Now I'm putting $200 into the church or charity that I care about. So now all of a sudden you're keeping this money moving. You're investing 20%, paying 70% on bills, putting 20%. And those are the levers that you can believe me or not, but try it out. Those are the levers that you got to pull to get in the currency mindset of money. 30 or 70% paying for the stuff that I need to take care of in my life. If your bills are over 70%, work your ass off to pay them down to get them under 70% so you can free up some more of your money to go into the other two buckets, which are the most important, honestly. Then you get to a point in life like me. I've been doing this for 20 years. You get this to a point in life like me where I probably live on 10% of my income. My car's paid off. My house has I've lived in my house forever and it's a cheap payment. My wife's car is paid off, like I live way below my means. So a lot of my money goes into investments, right? A lot of my money goes into charity. I'm still spending the same amount of money. It's just that now I'm probably investing 50% instead of 20%.
I want to touch on something that you just said for the benefit of the audience, because this was a lesson that I really struggled to learn. And I think it was Tony Robbins that had first planted that seed. Well, I mean, I could say it was, 10-year-old sitting in church where they said you have to give your 10%. But I was at a Tony Robbins event where he had mentioned, it's so important that you give away at least 10% of your income every single month. And I still remember thinking that thought at the time while I was building my life. Well, that's easy for you to say because you're Tony Robbins. You've got all these millions, you've got all these resources, but somebody who's trying to get there, that's really hard to give up that 10%. And I remember my wife saying to me one day, well, if we don't start now, we're never going to start. And then I read a book where somebody said, if you're not doing it now, you're not going to do it when you get there. Like, you're lying to yourself. Like, that is not, you're a giver or you're a taker. And right now, I was a taker. And so we started giving. And I remember cutting a $5,000, $10,000 check. And that was really scary to me because I wasn't putting that money into investments, but I gave first. It was the first time I had just started saying every month, how much did we make and what is 10%? And we were cutting checks for different charities right away. But here's the beauty in that exercise. We started making so much more money, and the money came through different avenues. And it wasn't this instantaneous, within 30 days, all of a sudden the floodgates opened. But it did shift something in me. And I never thought of it as a mindset shift, which I love that you explained it, because I'm actually a mindset guy. But to me, it was almost like I was changing my belief around money. Like I was giving money away because money is air. And if you need more money will come. But if you're holding on to it, you're saying, I don't believe that money is air. Money is freedom. Money is this intangible thing that flies to you and through you. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's currency's meant to flow. If you're not letting it flow, then you're stopping the flow of currency. Therefore, you're stopping the flow away from you. And you think you're stopping the flow away from you, but really you're stopping the flow to you as well because you're breaking the current. If a circuit breaker goes off, it breaks the current, right? So the home base, the T-pole, the generator is sending electricity, but the circuit breaker is keeping it from leaving, right? But which keeps it from getting more because there's none to leave. So that's what we are. We're the circuit breakers in the currency of the money system. And so many people think, oh, well, it's if I keep it in a savings account, then it's not leaving me. I'm blocking its ability to leave, but you're also blocking its ability to come in. Here's what I bet when I asked you the question, I already know the answer to this, but you never missed that 10%, did you? Never once did you miss a meal, couldn't pay a bill, couldn't get your shit together, had to go without it because you gave that money, right?
No, not at all. And I think people really...
I'm going through an audit. I'm going through an audit right now, and the IRS is like, who gives $800,000 to charity in a year? This is like more than, the income and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, I did because I didn't need it. You know what I mean? Like I gave that amount. So they're actually auditing me because they didn't believe. I actually ended up giving more than I claimed on my taxes, but I never missed that. Even as almost my goal is to give $1 million in a year. One year I'll get there, right? But even almost giving $1 million, I came close to it at 800 grand. I never missed it. I don't look back now and go, man, if I had that 800 grand, we could be doing this, that, and the other. My kids have never went without a meal. Never missed it.
That's incredible. That is absolutely incredible. I would love to ask you, where could people find you? Obviously, we're going to put your Instagram handle in our show notes. Hardcore Closer, we're going to put your website in the show notes. But if somebody wants to learn a little bit more about how they can work with you, learn from you, I didn't mention it yet, but not for any other reason than we literally just ran out of time. But you host at least 35 events every single year. You bring in incredible people that have done incredible things that add to already the wealth of knowledge that you have and bring to the table. And you are grounded in creating impact in other people. Some people talk about creating impact and you're out there creating an impact. And I just love that you're so candidly and vulnerably doing it. But I imagine a lot of people listening to this thinking, well, I want to get in one of those 35 rooms. So how can somebody find you?
Yeah, it's cool that I've been doing this so long, I forget how kind of big of a deal it is. But, I've been able to help a lot of people that were either just getting started or nobody knew who they were become very famous. David Goggins and I were working together before he had Instagram. I knew and helped Ed Milet along the way with some things before he was big on Instagram. Frederick Eklund, Josh Flagg. There's a bunch of people that I've helped over the years, come up because which has been the coolest thing to me, because those guys have gone on to be, absolutely huge. But I had this like one small, like in the wheel, was this one cog in the wheel that got to be a part of history, but for those guys are in the room. That's the kind of people that are in the rooms at our event. That's why I tell that story. And those guys have been in the room at our event. So you can go to jointheapex.com and you can get all of our information on our courses, our events, our mastermind that we have, our consulting stuff. So it's all there at jointheapex.com.
Well, I greatly appreciate your time. Thank you so much again for so beautifully and vulnerably sharing your story. But I hope that our audience takes away more than anything else that every single person has something really big to do in the world. Some of us meet that potential. Some of us stop because we get bumped and bruised along the way. And if Ryan can do it, we can all do it, because it just takes that drive and the focus of knowing who you ultimately want to be and not allowing anything to stop you. I want to quote you again, that when life is stopping you, it's happening for you. It's not happening to you, against you. There isn't this plot or plea against your life's mission. It's simply just another stepping stone preparing you to become the person you've ultimately meant to be. So Ryan, thank you so much for joining us. I greatly appreciate you, man.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me.
And to everybody else listening to the InPowered Life Podcast, we freaking love you. And please share this episode with anybody that you think might resonate with the message that we've heard today. Rate, review, and or subscribe to both Ryan and our channels. I greatly appreciate you guys, and we'll see you next week. Thank you so much. Bye.
If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe so you don't miss out on future content. And we would love your support in leaving us a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. Make sure to check the show notes for more information on how you can find us online and on Instagram. Now go create an amazing day for yourself, and we'll see you again soon.